All right, so I'm sure you guys have seen the unboxing. Well, here's the build of the Tamiya CC01. So just like yesterday, I had a hard time getting it out of the box. All right, so now I'm just gonna unpack everything, throw it to the side, do once over on the manual, and we're ready to start the build. So the first thing is gonna be the motor mount, and then the pinion. So there's a little plastic casing that you're gonna slip over the pinion. I guess I'm assuming that's what's gonna allow you to line it up perfectly so that you get a good gear mesh. Throw it into the motor mount, 2 screws. And now from here, we're going to start building the front diff. So this, from the manual, is going to be an open diff. What I'm going to end up doing with later is probably just throwing in a glob of epoxy. So it's going to lock up that diff. But for now, just 3 spiders, bevel gear, a little bit of grease, and ready to close it up with 3 little screws. Alright, so now we're going to build the rest of the drivetrain. So here we got the larger pinion with the spur, I guess the bevel at the end of it. Put the bushing, the bearing, and then the drive shaft. Same thing on this side here. A little bit of grease and a plastic retainer. So now we're going to start the assembly with the chassis. So we're going to throw a center gear in with 2 plastic spacers between. The larger drive line over here, or drive gear. So line up the motor, the cover, make sure our 3 gears are in the front, and we're ready to close everything up with 4 screws. Alright, so now we're going to go with the center drive line. Little housing. Alright, so now we're going to mount pieces for the suspension, or the shock specifically, actually. And here's where we're going to be mounting the 4-link. Sorry, not the 4-link. That's going to be the one of the suspension arms. Alright, so the grub screw, tighten up the drive shaft. Alright, so we're good there. Now onto the rear shock mounts. 1 screw each. Now we're going to move our way back to the front assembly. So here the A-arms are in 2 pieces to allow us to insert the C-hub. So place in the C-hub, the 2 pins, and then the opposite side of the A-arm. And 2 screws is going to hold that closed. Replicate the same on the opposite side. Alright, so now onto the steering assembly. So you have 2 plastic horns and 2 links between that. Alright, so the steering links, you have 2 posts here, 2 screws. That's going to allow for the bell crank to move side to side. They're going to put in the diff cups and ready to put the front suspension assembly together. So 3 screws are going to hold that down. Use that suspension link that we added earlier to the ball end. We're just going to snap it in place. And now here we're mounting the body mount, should I say. 1 screw on each side is going to secure that. And now onto the steering knuckle itself. So bushing the drive axle and a screw at the bottom and 1 at the top. Alright, so we're going to finish this side. 1 more screw at the top. And we're pretty much done with the front assembly. Just going to do the same on the opposite side. Alright, so we're done on the front. I'm going to start assembling the rear diff. We put the plastic lockouts in there and none of the spiders. 2 screws, a little bit of thread lock. And that diff is pretty much completed now. And now here we're going to start setting up the drive axles, plastic bushing, E-clip. Alright, our second bushing, and now we're ready to throw it into the axle housing. So you have one bevel gear, the diff, and then the 2 drive axles. Just line everything up. And we're ready for the top case. So here we're going to have 8 screws, 4 close into the diff, and 2 on each end of the housing itself. Make sure everything's nice and snug. Alright, so now we got the universal joint. And the lower links. 1 screw on each side to hold that in. Alright, before we get carried away, we're going to finish off with the rear body mount. Alright, 1 final screw. Now before we get the rear assembly on, we're going to have to add the 2 pivot balls. That's what the upper links are going to mount to. Alright, so now with the rear assembly, first thing we're going to do is push in the pivot balls and then connect the universal joint. So thread lock the grub screw so that doesn't back out. Mount the right lower link. And finally the left lower link. Snap in your upper links and we're ready to go. Alright, so now we're going to start assembling the shocks. Fill them with oil. Give it a couple quick taps. Get all the air bubbles out. And now we're ready to move over to the coils. Throw on a coil and a retainer. Just one spacer above the shock or the coil itself, and we're ready to install. So snap the bottom link. And at the top we have a screw to secure it to the A-arm. Same on the other side. Final screw to the A-arm. And onto the rear. The rear is very similar. You're going to be snapping it onto the ball end, and the only difference is it's going to mount on the rear side of the axle. 1 screw on that side, 1 more here, and the suspension is completed. Alright, so now we're going to install our bushings, drive pins, and the hex. Finish that one up there. Alright, so now we're just going to throw on the stock tires for mock-up. I'll probably be running my 1.9 Super Swampers on there, but for now, it's going to tie the truck up. Alright, 1 more tire, and we're off to the electronics. Alright, so here with the servo, just going to get that plastic horn off. Use the 1 servo retainer. Forget what part tree that was on, but I'm digging for it now. Alright, so I'm going to use that to mount the servo. It's going to give us a bit of wiggle room, move and get everything lined up. 2 screws, and we're done. Here we have the electronics plate, 3 screws. That's going to be all tied in. Mount up the ESC with some double-sided tape. Make sure I leave room for my receiver. Same thing with the receiver, double-sided tape. Plug everything in. Alright, so now we're going to secure the power switch. Remove the 2 screws, the plate, push it through the chassis, and reassemble with those same 2 screws. Alright, so now we're just going to Power it on. Center our servo. And we're going to be ready to install the horn. Alright, so everything's lined up. Snap the horn in place. Secure it with the one screw. And we're good to go. So the final piece will be the bumper. And we're done. I'm going to balloon all the electronics afterwards. Just wanted to get the kit up and running. Same thing with the steering up front. I'm sure you can see those tires are far from being lined up. We'll tie all that up off camera. But pretty pumped. Easy build. Got about 4 hours into it. Haven't done the body, but that will be coming shortly. Really like the look of this kit. I think this is going to end up being the kit that I'm going to run the plow on. Alright, so guys, thanks for watching. Please thumbs up and subscribe.